good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you're watching me from. Just like as I promised, to bring us further discussion on the issue as concerns our great continent of Africa. Today, we are going to discuss about colonization of nations, starting all the way from somewhere 1600s, 1700 to 1800s. The then more advanced societies had quest to explore the rest of the world for resources. And there was a kind of struggle and fight to know who will dominate in this fight. In the process, a lot of countries were colonized for resources, and in case of war, for extra military personnel. Southeastern Asians were colonized as well as African countries. But it wasn't all the countries in Africa that were colonized, and it wasn't all the countries in Southeast Asia that were colonized as well. At the end of between 1945, when the war in Europe started ending, to the 60s, a lot of African countries started setting themselves free from colonization. Some of them were able to gain their independence without much of a fight. Some had to put up some struggles and some other things before they finally were able to gain their own independence. But it has been a while since these things happened. Of course, we're not in a perfect world, but the world is progressing. And within this time, the world has gone through what we call industrial revolution. First of all, it was mechanization, electricity, the computation, and digitization, that where we are today. In effect, colonization ended for all the nations of the world. Colonization has ended. And most countries and all the countries that were colonized are now independent nations, including all the colonized countries of Africa. For anybody to tell us in 2023 that colonization is what is the problem we are facing in Africa, that person is not being honest with us. Colonizations are ended, and the colonial masters are competing in the same world with the former colonized nations. Countries like South Korea is effectively competing with the United States, Great Britain, Canada, Australia, Germany, and the rest of them, Japan. The same thing with Singapore. Singapore was colonized. I mean, seriously colonized. But today they are competing in the real world with other former colonial masters. And that's the world we live in, including India. India was severely colonized by the same Britain that colonized Nigeria, Ghana, and some other African countries. Today, India is a power to reckon with, because they are improving in their market system, they are improving in their own industrialization, they are improving in their economic system, educational system, and they can now compete with their former colonial masters. And that's where Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Rwanda, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, you name it, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, Niger Republic, Mali, that's what we ought to be looking at. How can we stand to learn how the world works? There is a way this world works. And as soon as we learn to embrace this world and how it works, we will understand that it's our duty to put in place the things that will allow us to compete with the rest of the world. And what are those things? We need good educational system. The former colonial masters are not going to come and give it to us. We need good hospitals, excellent hospitals. We know how to build those things. Things are not rocket science. The former colonial masters are not going to give this to us. We know how to build roads. We can learn how to build roads. We've seen people, other countries build roads. We know how to build industries. If we don't know how to build industries, we can learn how Chinese started in the 70s and today become number one. And when it comes to factory or manufactured goods, this is not rocket science. And the colonial masters are not stopping us from doing any of these things, because we have not even tried and failed. We've not even made any attempt to do it and then did not succeed. So how can somebody tell us in 2023 that the colonial masters are the ones stopping us? The colonial masters are gone. They have their own problem. Today, our problem is not the colonization we suffered. Our problem is that we have not embraced the other part of education. I call it the other part of education because there are two tiers in educational system. The one part of educational system is where you go and learn skills. Bachelor's degree in computer science, bachelor's degree in civil engineering, bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, bachelor's degree in nursing. Okay, you get MD to practice medicine. You get a farm doctor to be a pharmacist. These are utility education. Those educations are very important, don't get me wrong. But the only thing they're training you for a job. It is not training you to articulate how societies operate. It is not training you to come up with an ideas that will push a society forward. This part of education are prepared to prepare workforce, to groom workforce for a particular society. The other side of education is where you learn critical thinking. Okay? And you do not get that from any classroom. You gain this part of education by reading extensively. What's your level of intellectual curiosity? How many books do you read a year? Where can you get substantial information on how to make things work in your society? Why are we lagging behind? These are the questions that somebody may have answered in all the books that that's proliferated all over the world. You may find one. And this is the things Africans are lagging behind on. And that's why it is easy for us to think that by blaming somebody that we're getting there. No, you don't accomplish that through blame. You accomplish that through action. You map out your strategy, you come up with action, you start solving your problem. You're never going to solve them in a day. But you start. Because as soon as you embrace the problem and then you accept your responsibility, and then the consequences of you not doing what you are supposed to do. And what is the key thing? Holding our leaders accountable for what they have failed to do. Holding our leaders accountable. And we must not fail to understand and underscore that point, that we must hold our leaders accountable. I don't know how we do it. We need to come up with a strategy. How do we get ourselves where we can hold our leaders accountable? Let us start the brainstorming. Because you need to brainstorm to get there. And that's our next most vital step. Thank you for watching. Do me a favor. Please join this movement so that we can continue discussing the things we need to do to emancipate 1.2, 1.3 billion Africans. Because we must set ourselves free. Nobody gonna do it for us. Join this movement, subscribe, share it with other people. Let us continue talking. Leave your comments below. And I can answer some of the comments, may not be all of them, but as many as I can get to, I will answer them. Just as I've said in the past, if I don't have any answer to your question, I will tell you I don't have any answer to your question. As soon as I find an answer, I will come back to it. However, we must embrace that the problem of moving Africa forward is ours, and we are the only one that will solve it. And if you watch this video, you are one of the people that will help solve that problem. And you don't need to back away from your responsibility anymore. The way the young Americans don't back away from their problems, the Ukrainian people do not back away from their problem. I want all of you Africans to start looking at yourself the way you see all those Ukrainian young men and young women who have accepted to die for their country. But now we don't even want you to die. Just do the minimum you can to help move Africa forward without committing suicide. We're not asking for too much. What we're asking you to do is get involved so that we can do all what other people are doing in their own countries, instead of blaming somebody from a distance and hope the problem gets solved. Problems don't get solved like that. You tackle problems. Sometimes you go sleepless night. Somebody made America to be the way it is for you to come here and get a job, or for you to go to UK and get a job, or for you to go to Canada and get a job, or for you to go to Germany and get a job, or Japan or South Korea. You must compel yourself to do the same thing for your own country, so that those who come behind you will meet a better country. Again, thank you for watching. Subscribe. Please subscribe to this video or this channel so that we can continue this discussion. Thank you again as I come back to you next time. Peace.